cannot make it. But yeah, we are super excited to have Toby join us. Toby's been a big mentor to me when I was an undergrad. And you did something similar a couple weeks ago through the Knowlton alumni event. So hopefully we have, this is also beneficial. And I know Toby had done something similar last year. He was on another panel. So, and I thought it was really great. So really lucky to have him. Toby, do you mind well, our group's kind of small enough. We can maybe go around and just like, for those who don't know Toby. So how about Toby, you can start.
All right, sure. Hi, everybody. Toby Ridner, CEO of CDFA, where I don't know if you all know, but Nick's nickname is Smiley Nick at our organization because the kid has never not got a smile on his face. And he was a student of mine several years ago, a great student. He actually took my graduate level course after he took then you took my studio too. So you took 3 of my courses. So good to be here. And Mitchell's in my class now, and Luke was in my class before. So I know at least 3 of you here. And Mitchell, thank you for asking. 2 of my kids have COVID, and I'm living in a COVID house right now. So I'm quarantined until at least Saturday, but they're all good. They're all good. But nice to meet you all. So I run CDFA, which is on the screen, but I'm also adjunct faculty in the Knowlton School for City Regional Planning Program.
Awesome. So in terms of people who don't know Toby, Andrew, do you want to introduce yourself really quick so he knows your background?
Yeah, my name is Andrew. I am a second year MCRP student. I actually did my undergrad at Knowlton as well. So I guess it's just an unfortunate coincidence I never had a class with you. My focus areas are active transportation, public transit, and urban design. But as I'm looking for jobs, I'm open to more of a generalist planning positions as well.
Nice to meet you.
Julia, do you want to go next?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Julia Brooks. This is my second year in the MCRP program. Although I guess I won't be graduating until next May. My focus areas, I guess I'm kind of more open. I think that the more I got involved in CRP, the more I realized how broad of a degree it actually is and how many interesting facets of the field there could be. I had my undergrad in logistics management, so I am well versed in transportation, but I think I'm kind of interested in also maybe branching out into more of development and that sort of focus.
Thank you. Shelby, could you introduce yourself next?
Hi, I'm Shelby. I'm also in my second year, but also not graduating until next spring either, because I'm part-time right now. But I'm going to be going full-time next year. My focus areas are like community development, housing, and like economic development. I did my undergrad in international economic development, so it's kind of how I found my way here. So, yeah.
Awesome, thank you. So Catherine is our vice president, but she's I think she's doing field work right now, and her connection's a little spotty. Oh, so she can say hi, but she's a 4th year in CRP, and she's really great. Serena, if you'd like to introduce yourself, you can.
There we go. I'm Serena. I'm a first year city planning student, undergraduate. And so this is my first meeting with you all. So it's kind of exciting. And I'd like to go into like residential community development kind of side, sustainability areas. Nice to meet you.
Awesome. We are so happy that you're here. And as one of the you're kind of a unicorn because there's not a lot of first year like CRP majors. So it's really cool that you found it. And now you can take one of Toby's classes in the future. So make sure you do that. yeah, I think that was the kind of taking Toby's class was the first time that like I knew I was interested in planning, but like it kind of like clicked, in terms of like matching the um, the possibilities of like what a city can be and what it should be, and then kind of the realities of like, okay, well, how do we pay for this? So I think his economic development class is a really kind of like must do for undergrad CRP people. And I wish there was a equivalent in the graduate program. So maybe something
I've been trying.
Maybe something to consider.
They'll do one. They'll do one eventually.
So
wait,
Toby,
Luke, are you an undergrad? Yeah.
Yeah, this is my second year.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And Mitchell, you're an undergrad too.
I'm correct. That's let's see. That's correct. This is like even though I'm a third year, this is my first full year of being a city and regional planning major. City and regional planning is my second major. I'm also a public affairs major. So, so I'm really hoping to be a city planner, but I've been involved with a lot of just like political grassroots advocacy stuff. So I think like that's in policy. So I think that's going to really help me to be able to like the whole community outreach side. And I think that more part of planning in terms of like the stakeholder development plan. But overall career wise, I hope to do something, working for local government as a planner. I think planning is so much fun, especially because you get to interact with people a lot. And I'm a huge people person.
Words rarely said. Planning is so much fun, but I'm with you.
So Toby, I think you have, you're just a great person for a lot of the undergrads to talk to in terms of the way you started out, and especially like what Mitch just said about being in public affairs, because could you explain a little bit of how you discovered planning?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm not unlike all of you. So just I have an undergrad in planning from Ohio State and I have a master's in planning from Ohio State, but I'm not unlike you. You kind of find it on accident. You kind of find planning on accident in Ohio State. And it probably results from you wondering like, why is that building like that? Or why is that road like that? Or why is my little city never, developed or anything? And you just kind of seek it out. So I found planning purely on accident. I took an entry level. At the time, I think it was 300. It was called Planning 300. And I found that linkage between person and place is just like the strongest linkage you can have, right? The place you live, the place you are, it defines you. It's who you are. And I found that early in my time at Ohio State. And then at the time they didn't have an undergrad. So I actually technically have a minor in planning and a BA in political science. But when I started going through the program, it was not as robust as it is now. Like there was no undergrad. You couldn't get a degree in it. You could get a minor, but you could get a master's. So there was no undergrad program. And so I had graduated and realized that if I wanted to do planning, I really needed to get a master's degree. So I went to the master's program. And what was great about the program back then, and I think it's still very strong, not as great now because there's more students in the program, but every graduate student was assigned an internship. You didn't have choice. You had to do it. And the cities all around Central Ohio would lock you in. So I was an intern for the city of Columbus for 1 year. And then for my second year with the city of Gahanna as a associate planner. So I think that fact that OSU's curriculum is really practitioners based. I know you can get into a lot of theory, like if you go that route, but it's intended to be practitioners based, meaning you're going to go out and be a practical planner, which is different than a lot of the other city and regional planning programs around the country. A lot of them are either very theoretical based or they move you into a specialization and you're very specialized. You're a transportation planner, you're a housing planner, you're an environmental planner of some sort. Ohio State gives you a little bit of better chance to be more of a general, if you will, a generalist on planning. So you can do public policy, you can do real estate, you can do transportation, housing, community development, environment. You can do them all, actually. I mean, I think, Nick, like you have done a bunch of different, you did my studio, which was focused on a regional plan or a city plan for a county. You did my class, which was looking at finance. And you did my food system class too, which was looking at a specific element of planning and then trying to plan for it as it relates to a regional food system. So like, that's what's great about Ohio State's program. You do need to fight and claw your way for those internships. They're really important. They're I don't want to like diminish your enthusiasm for getting a job or anything, but like for Serena, your first year, first quarter, first semester, like go do an internship, even if it's unpaid, and it shouldn't be unpaid. That's like robbery. They should pay you, but go find one, buddy up with someone, talk to me, talk to other planners, and get something, because even 10 weeks of experience doing, working 1 day a week in a planning place in a city or a county or, a little township or something is useful. So that's for the younger ones of you who aren't quite through the program yet, that's going to be critical. Nick, I think you did 3 or 4 different things. Plus you went away for a year, a couple of years. So you did a number of things. I think those are really important.
Yeah, my first one was working for OSU Extension doing like urban gardens, so it was like planning adjacent, so it wasn't like actual planning, but I think it really helped, prove that I could like do something.
Yeah.
Go
ahead, Andrew. Yeah.
I'm a graduate teaching associate for the introductory city planning class, and I've taught my students to, if they really want to do planning and they don't want to go to grad school, that they really need a planning internship. When I was in undergrad, I was working full-time to put myself through school. And I guess I was also slightly comfortable in just kind of doing school and work. But unfortunately, when it came time to get a job and I was determined not to go to grad school, it was very hard because not only was I competing with applicants that had a graduate degree, but I was also competing with people that had internship experience as well. So I've even told them like, hey, even if you can like, I don't know, get a part-time job over the summer working for Parks and Rec, like at least you could say that, oh, I've worked in local government. It may not be directly tied to planning, but having like that internship is like really important. And also based on what Mitchell just put, and actually I forgot to tell my students this, but my current internship at Morpsey, I've been there for almost 2 years now. I actually applied for a full-time position there after I graduated and I didn't get it. So don't let the no's keep you, like hold you back. It's can be pretty painful getting rejections, but don't let that stop you. And especially if you're early in your undergraduate program, you'll have plenty of time. And a lot of people, they want like 3rd or 4th year interns. So don't let it get you down if you can't find one right away. But yeah, I would second what Jason is saying.
And don't be worried. No worries. And don't be worried if you get a job. Like you might want to work for county or city government as a planner someday. But go work for a housing developer for a summer, or go work for an environmental firm for a summer. It doesn't really matter. I mean, as sad as that is, it doesn't necessarily matter who. It's just get that on your CV. If it's 1 day a week volunteering, go to like these little, like, I don't remember, Nick, which one of our fellow classmates did that Marble Cliff work. It was the Tylers or whoever those guys were. They did work for Marble Cliff, a little teeny city in Columbus, which is like 500 people. But it was just, the idea was just, they did a little project for them and it was a study for them. Like, even if it's just something small like that, go ahead and do that because it does get your foot in the door and you start to get to know people. I'd also say don't listen to their no's necessarily, because most of us, like I hire a ton of interns. Most of us are literally making it up as we go along. It's like, oh shit, we need interns. And if I remember your name, I'll probably be like, let's just call that kid. He was interested in an internship. We're not going to go like post a job for 700 people to apply to. We're going to remember, like I remember Nick came to me early and said like, if you're ever hiring interns, but I don't think I ever interviewed him. I think I just called him or emailed him one day and said, do you want an internship? Because I remember your name and you're available type of thing. So just get to know him. I think Nick came and had coffee with me or something and we just met, and maybe it was like 6 months later, we were like, hey, do you want an internship? So just get to know people, even just say, hi, this is who I am. If an opportunity ever pops up, consider me.
Toby, something that I really like that like you're unabashedly proud of being a planner. And you started off as like a typical planner, but you made that pivot in your career. Can you explain just how that kind of happened?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think for me, I liked being a planner, but I found that it was after 2 years of it, I was like, all right, I don't think I can do any more site planning. You know, it's just, you do one site plan, you do like 1,000 of them. So I started getting interested in how it actually works behind the scenes. I wanted to understand how the mechanics of development worked. I didn't necessarily want to be a developer, but when you're doing like we did Creekside in Gahanna, that was a project of mine, and it was a $21 million project. I started to wonder, where the hell's that money coming from? And I just found that that's what I liked. I liked understanding where those dollars were. So for you, you're a transportation person and you want to figure out, well, how does that get paid for? Or how does that, so that's where my passion came. I found what in planning I really liked. And for me, it was tracing the money. Now it might be different for you, but it's to sort of, start to pick around the edges. I know the day I became the finance guy, the finance planner, and it was a day that, and I don't know if I think I said this in my class, like one day someone invited me to a meeting at the city of Gahanna, and they said, we're going to issue bonds. And I said, what's a bond? I didn't know what a bond was. And they said, go find out. I became the bond guy. I became the finance guy like overnight because I was the smartest person in the room about how bonds work. And suddenly, like, I was valuable, right? I was like important all of a sudden because somebody in the room knew how bonds work. So the point to that is if you do get an internship, like put your name down for everything. Yeah, I want to be on that project. Yes, I'll be on that project. And even if you're digging up data on a project and it's boring as sin, you're at least keep making yourself relevant and finding if you like that stuff. Mitchell, you like public policy. There's more public policy in planning than there is planning. Like there is way more public policy. We spend more time trying to decide what we're going to do than actually doing what we do. And so if you like policy and the interchange between government and decision-making, that's a needed skill in planning as much as a site planner is. So I pivoted to finance, and then I became like fascinated by how all these places pay for all this stuff. And then you start thinking like water and sewer and transportation and roads and bridges and wastewater treatment and schools and prisons and city halls. And you're like, okay, I could do something with this profession. So it's kind of finding that passion, that niche of yours, and not being afraid to just sort of own it. And I am an unabashed planner. I love this shit, but I also like, I like knowing things about places.
Hey, Mitch, you raised your hand. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I did. So, I mean, I just had a quick question, because this summer, I've been applying for planning internship after planning internship after planning internship. And I think one thing that I've heard is they kind of look for more grad students, but on my resume, I have just for example, I have a bunch of, grassroots, political advocacy experience, really just logistics planning, really, kind of that resume that shines through. But what I'm worried is if I do want to go to be a city planner, let's say that I'm applying for a job and this summer I cannot for example, I go to apply for a city planning internship and I have all more of a public affairs background, but I don't have even one city planning internship. Is that going to, I'm kind of nervous that that's going to kind of really screw me up.
Well, you got to connect the dots. You're also taking planning classes. And I was going to say this during this, not enough of you promote the classes you've taken. I've seen dozens of resumes where they don't put the relevant classes they've taken on there. If you tell me you took my class, then I know what you know. I know where you are in the knowledge stack. If you tell me you've taken Tice's class or you've taken Jesus's class, I know where you're at. I know those classes. And so does the planning community. They know Jesus, they know Tice, they know Kyle, they know, Bernadette, and they'll be able to say, oh, you took Bernadette's studio or you took Kim Burton's studio focused on this. That's education. Your education's still worth a ton. So what you got to do is balance it out. You might have a resume that's full of grassroots and engagement, but balance it out, make your resume two-parted. That also says, and look at these relevant classes I took. I mean, I would say Nick's studio that he took with me is as valuable as an internship Like he wrote an entire strategic plan for a county with, a strategic financing plan for a county that they're using today. I would value that studio experience as much as an internship. Maybe more, because our studios are good at Ohio State.
Yeah, and Mitch, we're happy to help you separately, go over your resume and help connect those dots.
I will definitely take you up on that offer.
Toby, you mentioned a little bit about how you hire a bunch of people, including myself. Is there a common thread between interns that you feel do really well and make you drawn to them in the first place?
Yeah, the ones that show up on time. That's kind of the common thread. I mean, you don't want to be rude about it, but there's a saying with interns, you get what you pay for. That's why paid internships I don't believe in. I'd rather pay you, $13 or something and know that I'm paying you for a service. And then it's your job to show up and dress up and attend and come prepared and really just be there and be part of it. So for me, the common thread between the people that I hire are the ones that want to be there. I mean, that want to walk in the front door at 9 a.m., want to work until 5, who are putting their nose into the business and really trying, who are also able to put their egos aside a little bit and say, this might not be the most glorious work right now, but this is going to help build me and help me learn what I like and don't like. I mean, Nick, you are that kind of an intern for us. We could hand you anything. It could be the dumbest project or the coolest project, and you'd smile and just take it and go, okay. And I probably hired, I mean, I'm not kidding. In my 17 years at CDFA, I've probably hired 30 OSU interns. And, probably 25 of them have been great. And a few of them haven't. But the ones that have been great have been the ones that want to come and work and they want to learn and they don't have a big ego. And so I think you just got to put that aside. Andrew might want to be a transportation planner. And that's fantastic. I hope so. I hope he becomes one. But he may have to learn how to be a development finance planner first. And that's good if he's willing to learn it and embrace it and then go be a transportation planner. That's awesome. But if you come saying, well, I want to be a transportation planner and I'm really not open-minded to this other stuff, well, you're not really useful to most places. I had a great student who I hired, but he really wanted to be a sustainability planner. Well, we weren't doing that kind of work at that time. That wasn't in our focus area. And he didn't work out with us because he just was so narrow-minded on that we couldn't get him to open up to these other things, and just didn't really work for us. So being really open-minded, showing up, dressing up, just being ready to work is really what we want. 8 good hours a day. That's what we want, out of our interns.
So being in charge of a pretty decent sized company, in terms of development finance, hiring professionally, maybe for more of our grad people in the Zoom room. What stands out in those interviews? What are you looking for?
First one is humility. You're not the only person with a master's degree. Lots and lots of people have master's degrees. It does show that you're dedicated, and we know that. Anybody that comes in and interviews with a master's degree, we know you're dedicated already. You wouldn't have gone through the hell of graduate school if you weren't dedicated. So some humility and understanding that degree is important, but it also doesn't define you. It's really your work ethic, your work style, your presentation, your ability to sort of embrace, what the company is about and who they're about. I like it when grad students, we just hired a grad student, Ariel Miller, who graduated last May. We hired her full time. She was an intern with us. She's awesome, but her big thing is just her humility. She understands that she's got a master's degree. She's smart as hell, but she's got a lot to learn and she wants to learn it. So that humility really helps. The other side about it too is just being aware of where you're going to work. You show up and know the material, know what the company's about, know what their focus is, go through their websites, things like that. And I tend to gravitate towards people who say things like, I was on your website and I saw that you did this last year, or I was reading your webpage and I realized you guys had 7 different types of programs for housing. Like, that's cool, because that makes me feel like you actually took 5 minutes to learn about me. And for grad students, that puts you over the top, like your researchers, your studiers. So that really puts you kind of above everybody else when the interview process comes along.
That's great. Does anyone else have any questions? Just want to make sure that we're incorporating everybody. I can keep going.
I mean, don't be afraid to show personality too. You know, like, this isn't 1970 where you just have to be a robot and show up and work. Like, we're in the 2021s now. We want personality. We want attitude. We want people who have some passion, but we want their passion to be able to be sort of humbled at times and willing to do the work that's needed. And Ohio State's pumping out a lot of students with passion. They now have to have the next like phase of that professionalism and that ability to show up and be there and really be engaged. That's the hard part, right?
I can speak to that. So, again, I'll share another story of rejection. I was applying for this. It was only going to pay. Well, I shouldn't like talk bad about like a certain pay, but it wasn't going to pay that much. It was a planning technician job for Cleveland Heights. But at that point, the reason why I wanted to go back to grad school was to get a planning job. So if I was offered this job, I was considering not going through the MCRP program. But anyway, apparently I did really well in the first round of interviews, where I talked to literally the entire planning staff, and the HR person was there except for the planning director. And then the next day, the HR person calls me back, and she was very enthusiastic and wanted me to come in to talk to the director. So I drove all the way up to Cleveland Heights from Columbus the next day, talked with the director thinking I had the job. And then turns out I didn't get it, because apparently I didn't sell myself enough to the director, even though it was a very open-ended, like, it seemed like a conversation, but apparently it didn't come across that I was excited about planning. So even though that experience kind of sucked, it gave me good feedback. So when I, maybe about a month or two later, when I applied for the MORPC active transportation position, I made it very clear throughout the interview why I was passionate about better biking and walking facilities, and I ended up getting the job. So,
well, Andrew, you dodged a bullet in Cleveland Heights. I lived there for 6 years, so you dodged a bullet on that job. So you should be maybe a little thankful you didn't get that one.
Yeah, I'll never know, I guess.
No, that's something that happened to me. Like, I had just an okay interview. And then the next time around, you reflect on it, and then you correct, and the next time, you do much better. Hopefully.
But it shouldn't diminish you. You got to be yourself, and you got to, you can't go in there and be fake either. You don't want to be like everything to everybody on transportation planning and like obnoxious. So you got to be careful, right? Like, you have to balance it out, because sometimes they're really looking, like, I hate to say this, sometimes they're looking for warm bodies, people that can just come in and work, and your passion might scare them a little bit. So you got to, judge the room and balance them out. But yeah, I mean, when I got my job at the county, I worked for Franklin County as well in between Gahanna and my next job. I thought I blew that thing. It was so bad. I did the worst. I called the guy driving away and was like, I want to re-answer that question. That's how bad it was. And I still got the job. So even those, I mean, maybe that's the personality, it comes across like, hey, I actually care, and I'm driving home and I have a better answer for that question now. I just froze. So be yourself, still be passionate.
Toby, have you done any kind of what the setting will be for like the career fair in terms of doing things virtually, and like any tips for that?
Yeah, I'm gonna give you one big tip. I hope you all dress better than you are right now. I'm just telling you that right now. I mean, do not show up with like a t-shirt on or not prepared to be the best human being you are. And like, Shelby's got a real nice background, and she, that looks nice. It's bright, it's colorful, it's positive, and you want to be in a good setting where it's quiet. You got to know how to use the technology. You got to be ready to sit up, like, you know, sit up and be in the camera. And Mitchell, you don't have to change now, but you know, they don't want to look up your nose and they don't want to look at your forehead. Like, you got to be there and be present. And then my other thing, this is a big one. So I've done 3 rounds of interviews on Zoom we hired some people. And my number one thing is give it it's called a pregnant pause. And that's that pause between conversations. Because I could still be talking and the relay is delayed and then you're cutting me off because you're answering the question. So give it a pregnant pause and just stop for a second and then let the technology catch up. It'll prevent all the no you go type of stuff. And that'll show a lot to people that you're actually taking the time to use the technology to have the best conversation. You might all want to just get Shelby's background because that might be the one I go with.
I was wondering if these interviews, like the sessions, are over Zoom or are they like integrated into Handshake? I can't really tell from the information there because I don't know how to use anything but Zoom at this point.
Yeah, we'll have to follow up with Angie to make sure everyone's set. I know they had a couple sessions. I don't know if they recorded those in terms of what to expect. But we can look into that.
You know what might be good to say right off is nobody's comfortable with this. None of us like doing this way. Like, we all know that COVID sucks. It's been a crappy year. Just don't say any of that. You're excited to be there. You're thrilled that we were able to set this up this way. We're sorry we couldn't be together, but like, this is your moment. Like, so don't be sad that you have to be on Zoom, or don't be like, I wish I was face to face. Just sell yourself the best you can on the mechanisms you had. You know, in the old days, this is make me old, we did interviews over the phone. Like, on a phone, folks. Like, talking to some guy in Georgia, I had an interview over the phone. I didn't even know who he was. He doesn't know who I am. And so you just have to use it. But don't be sorry or sad for yourself that you're on Zoom. Just make it the best experience you can.
That's great. Toby, for our undergrad people, what advice do you have for them to stand out against people like Andrew and myself and Shelby who have a master's? Like, what do you think is a good, like, helps them like differentiate themselves?
I think there's a couple things. Number one, you really can't compete against those guys. No offense. Like, they got master's degrees. I mean, they're a level above you all when it comes to the educational side. So if the employer is looking for a person with master's level skills, you know, give it your best go and everything, but it's going to be really hard. Just accept that. Then I'd say, like, if you know it's an open competition, you just have to demonstrate your content knowledge, you know, that you have really embraced the knowledge. Like, for instance, Mitchell, I wouldn't say this is my first semester in a city regional planning program. Who cares? Say I'm a city regional planning major and I've taken these courses and here's the things I've learned. I don't know if it's your first semester or your fifth. I have no idea. I don't know if you're a traditional student or a non-traditional student. Maybe it's your fifth semester, but over 5 years. I have no clue. And so don't predispose me to say, oh, this guy's just starting out. You know, he doesn't really know anything. Stand on what you've taken and the experience you have. And then the other side of it is you can excel by being professional. You know, what are my strengths? I'm on time. I show up. I'm a hard worker. I'm a great writer. Holy crap. Tell me you're a good writer. I love writers. I mean, Nick's a really good writer. That's one of the reasons we wanted him on our team. He's a good writer. And tell them those skills. If the job description says we need an organized, good communicator, blah, 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 I'm a really good communicator. I'm super organized. I have systems and to-do lists for my checklist for my projects. I enjoy project management. I really enjoy doing virtual meetings to get everybody on the same page. Like, speak to the strengths. Because what they'll do is they'll say, well, if it's between like a first year graduate student or a fourth year or third year undergrad, that undergrad really impressed me with her, you know, organization and her stick-to-itiveness and her ability to articulate why she's here and why she cares. Whereas that graduate student just kind of thought maybe he was going to get the job because he's a grad student. So, you know, kind of differentiate yourself. And I think the last thing to remember, folks, you're learning. Like, nobody expects you to move mountains. You're students. we know what we're getting with interns, particularly undergrad. We know what we're getting. What we want is people to come and work hard and to be part of the team and to not make excuses. So I think if you can rise above that, you'll be fine. Don't work for less though. I mean, get paid and stand up for yourself.
No, that's great. And I'm sure Andrew can think of this too. Like the people in our cohorts when we were in undergrad, the people who really worked hard, who only had their bachelor's, but they went on to land great jobs. Toby, I think of Harry.
Oh, Harry was awesome. I mean, Nick, you didn't have to go get your master's. You were going to excel. Like you were doing planning stuff up in Cleveland. Like you didn't have to go get your master's. You chose to because that's what you wanted to do. But you're an example. Harry Allen's a great example. Lots of great students Catherine Sims, Kara, all those folks. They all did a great job with an undergrad degree. They just rose above. That's all.
Oh,
go ahead.
Oh no, you can go.
I was gonna say I hired Malcolm Guy and Allison Rowland. They were both in my class fall of 2018. They were undergrads, they graduated. I hired both of them right after that class ended. They were great students. There was nothing particularly amazing about them in terms of their internship. One of them was a bartender and Malcolm worked at UDF. He worked at UDF. They came across with passion. They were interested in planning. They wanted to learn. And I mean, they've been great. Those two have been with me for over 2 years now. And they're absolutely amazing, amazing employees, the best ever. And they have undergrad degrees and they don't need masters. They're amazing, amazing employees.
So my last question would be, and this is kind of maybe part two to what the conversation that you had on that panel last year, just in terms of COVID related stuff. We're a year into this. Any other lessons or insights for those graduating in the spring?
You're gonna have to work harder. I mean, that's all it is to it. If you were going to send out 10 resumes, you probably got to send out 20 and you got to shake the trees. So we're so busy. I don't know, for you, if you're in internships now, this, our organizations are so busy. We're so overwhelmed. We're working harder with fewer people. We're working harder for our dollars because we're in a recession and the economy is scary. So we're so overwhelmed that if we go to hire, we need to get someone and we need to get them in. So my thing would be be diligent about it and just get your name into people's hands. And then don't cry about COVID. There's nothing any of us can do about it. It sucks, folks. I know, it's been terrible. It's been the worst year ever for all of us, but there's nothing we can do about it. The good thing is, and this is where you guys can be the beacons here, right? You're the shining hope. You're what comes next. Us old guys, we weathered this storm. We paid our mortgages. We'll be okay. But you guys are the future, and you have a chance to say, hey, during all this, I really buckled down on my studies. I met lots of people. I engaged in my programming. And even during COVID, I still killed it in college. I still took care of my business. And I'm so excited about going out and finding an internship or a job and just show that you're excited to do this. We hired Annalise McClurg. She's still in the program, I think, right now. We just hired her for a part-time job. She's going to be a part-time associate starting in April. She was just excited. She came to us and was like, I want a job with you guys. And I was like, well, I'm not hiring. But then she wore me down. She was interested, and it's shit, let's give her a job. And we gave her a job. So it's just about being, just keep pushing, keep going. I see your mind churning right now, Serena. I see what you're doing. You're going to take my class, CRP 3400, and then you're going to try to get a job. I already see how it's happening. And Luke, I'm a little disappointed that you haven't tried yet.
Well, when you do the next workshop class or when you have an economic development studio, just keep going. Just keep taking Toby's classes, and he has no choice.
I do. That's true. Nick literally was living in my office at one point. He was at my office more than he was at Ohio State, so that works.
That was the last question I had. Does anyone else have any questions for Toby? We want to be respectful of his time, and we're really grateful that you spent an hour with us.
Well, hey, you all have my name and number, so if you need help, just let me know. I know a handful of you, but I also know a lot of people, and I always offer that. Nick, where are you interning, or where are you working right now?
I'm at Planning Next.
Yeah, Planning Next. Yeah, I couldn't remember where you were. It was that or MKSK. I couldn't remember, but I know all these people in all these places, and even if it's me just saying, "Hey, will you talk to this person?" They're looking for an internship. And I said this at the last thing I did a couple of weeks ago was, you don't always get the job in the first conversation. The first conversation is just to get to know you, and, oh, hey, I'm Nick and I'm interested. If anything ever happens, it's the next follow-up that matters. It's been a month, it's been 2 months. Hey, Toby, are you guys hiring? You know anybody that is? That it just jogs my memory. Like, oh yeah, I wanted to get back to that person. I wanted to, that's what Annalise did to us. She emailed me 2 months ago and said, if you're looking for anyone, let me know. And then she followed up, and then she followed up again. And finally was like, yeah, I think let's have her interview her. And so it's not about this interview today or tomorrow. It's about, keeping that relationship going and getting to know people. Nick is pretty infectious. So I ended up just really liking him. And then you're like, I want to work with that guy, oh, he'd be fun to work with. And that's what it leads to, right? That's how you create the relationship. It's like, I like that person. I'd like to spend time with them working. So build those relationships.
Last call for questions.
I don't know if this really applies to work or like internships, but I was just kind of curious. With COVID, do you think COVID and like the rise of kind of like virtual work, do you think like the stuff that cities are going to start like funding will change, like from like subsidizing like Class A office spaces? Do you think that'll be like less prevalent?
I think short term, yeah, not long term. This virtual office world that everybody's talking about is not going to last. It just can't. They're already proving that productivity is down in companies, even though everybody's happy that they don't have to leave their house and they can work in their pajamas. Ultimately, it's productivity. Like my organization, we went back in March. We started going back 2 days a week to the office. And I made that decision because we're better together. We're better when we can collaborate together, when we can sit in a room and talk about projects and write on a whiteboard. You can't do any of that stuff virtually. Like if you're a salesperson, yeah, you can do that virtually. If you're, someone who can like show testing, that's different. You can do that virtually. But, real work settings, you got to be face to face. You got to be, that physical connection is important. There's an energy there. So I do not think it will change. I think it will change for the short term. But I think in the long term, what's going to happen, probably in like four to 6 years, there's going to be a huge demand for office because these companies are all going to want to come back. They're all going to say, this isn't working. We need our people back. Nationwide is talking about going completely virtual. Well, that's interesting because they have like 400,000 square foot of office space in downtown Columbus. Good luck with that. Like, that's not happening. They'll all come back.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great question.
All right. You guys will do great.
Thank you, Toby. For anyone else who wants to stick around, Ibor will be here. But again, thank you, Toby. Thank you so much for sharing insights with us.
Hey, just for the record, Nick smiled for the entire 56 minutes of this thing. Did you see that? Look at him. He's trying not to right now. He is not capable of doing it. All right. Thanks, Nick. Thanks for inviting me, buddy. Good seeing you.
Yep.
Thank you.